What would you do if you uncovered prejudice and cruelty in the very business you built to represent respect and dignity? It was a humid summer evening in Dallas, Texas, the kind of night where the air clings to your skin, heavy with the scent of freshly cut grass and sizzling street food. Nathan Daniels, a 42-year-old CEO of one of the fastest-growing restaurant chains in the country, sat behind the wheel of his car parked discreetly across the street from one of his establishments. The location was one of many in his portfolio, but tonight it wasn't about profit margins or expansion plans. Nathan had built his business on a foundation of community respect and inclusivity, and he prided himself on running a company that reflected those values. But recently he had started hearing whispers, subtle complaints from customers, and cryptic feedback from his managers. Something felt off. Nathan stepped out of his car, blending into the evening crowd in a pair of well-worn jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, and a cap pulled low over his eyes. He wanted to be unrecognizable, just another face in the line. His goal was simple: see his restaurant the way any customer would as he walked through the door. The familiar aroma of sizzling burgers and fried chicken greeted him. The dining area was modest but clean, buzzing with the sound of chatter and clinking cutlery. He smiled faintly for a moment. It felt like everything was as it should be. But as he approached the counter, something caught his attention, a low murmur of laughter from behind the register. The employees, two young men, were leaning against the counter, oblivious to the small line forming in front of them. Their laughter grew louder, punctuated by whispered comments that made Nathan pause. He couldn't make out the words just yet, but the tone was unmistakable, mocking, sneering, ugly. But Nathan didn't react right away. Instead, he decided to wait and listen, unsure of what he might uncover next. Nathan pretended to study the menu board, letting the line shuffle forward until he was second in line. The laughter persisted, now more pointed, more deliberate. A middle-aged man with a noticeable limp shuffled out of the restaurant, balancing his tray, and a soda precariously. "Man, you see the way he waddled out of here?" One of the employees whispered, loud enough for anyone nearby to catch. The other snickered, "Bet he can't even make it to the car without spilling his drink." Nathan froze, his stomach churned with anger. Disbelief. He watched as the man they mocked paused by the door to adjust his grip, his face a mixture of concentration and quiet determination. Nathan's gaze flicked back to the two employees. Their smug expression made it clear this wasn't a one-off moment of poor judgment. It was habitual, but it didn't end there. The employee at the register turned to his colleague, motioning toward the line. "Look at this guy," he said, jerking his thumb toward the next customer. A woman wearing a threadbare hoodie. Bet she's about to count out change in nickels, probably can't even afford a drink. The second employee smirked, muttering something Nathan couldn't make out, but the tone made his skin crawl. He felt his hands clench involuntarily, his pulse quickening. As Nathan approached the counter, the two employees seemed to take notice of him for the first time. "Yo, you think he's one of those food delivery dudes?" one whispered, loudly, glancing at Nathan's plain clothes and casual demeanor. "Nah," the other replied with a chuckle. "Probably just another guy looking for a quick deal. Cheap types love the dollar menu." Nathan's breath hitched, but he forced himself to remain composed. This wasn't just about him. It was about every customer who walked through those doors, about the values his company was supposed to stand for. But Nathan knew he couldn't react just yet, not until he understood the full extent of the problem. Nathan placed his order calmly, his voice steady, despite the storm brewing inside him. A simple burger and fries. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. The employee at the register barely made eye contact, punching the order into the system with mechanical indifference. Nathan stepped aside, his eyes scanning the dining area. Families, teenagers, a few solo diners. It was a typical evening rush. He found an empty table near the corner where he could observe without being noticed. As he waited for his food, he replayed the scene at the counter in his mind, every word, every sneer. This wasn't just bad customer service. It was a toxic culture, one that mocked vulnerability and preyed on those who didn't fit a certain mold. Nathan's mind raced with questions. How far did this behavior go? Were these two employees an isolated issue, or was there a deeper problem festering within his company? The thought made his stomach tighten. He had spent years building this business from the ground up. pouring his heart into every detail. The food, the atmos, the hiring process, it all reflected his vision. Or so he thought. Confronting the employees immediately would feel satisfying, but it wouldn't solve the root of the problem. What if this attitude had been overlooked by managers, or worse, enabled? Nathan had always believed in second chances. But could he afford to give one here? And what message would that send to his other employees? His food arrived delivered with a "Cur, but here you go," and averted eyes. He stared at the tray, appetite long gone. His thoughts drifted to the man with the limp, the woman in the hoodie. They had come here for a meal, not to be judged or ridiculed. Nathan leaned back in his chair, his decision forming like a weight pressing on his chest. This wasn't just about correcting behavior. It was about setting a precedent, making it clear that this kind of culture had no place in his business or in society. But he knew his next move had to be precise, thoughtful, and above all, impactful. Nathan waited until the rush died down the dining area, emptied bit by bit, leaving only a few stragglers finishing their meals. The employees behind the counter had started to relax, chatting more openly, their professionalism slipping further. He approached the counter, the air between him and the two employees suddenly thick with unspoken tension. One of them noticed him first, plastering on a half-hearted smile. "Need anything else, man?" he asked, clearly uninterested in the answer. Nathan's expression remained neutral, but his voice carried a weight they hadn't anticipated. "Actually, yes. Can we talk for a moment somewhere private?" The two employees exchanged a glance, confusion flickering across their faces. Nathan didn't wait for a response. He gestured toward a small break room visible through the back door reluctantly. They followed him inside, their casual demeanor replaced with unease inside the cramped room. Nathan closed the door, leaning against it for a moment. "Beth?" Or, turning to face them, "Do you know who I am?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. One of them shrugged. "No, should we?" Nathan reached into his pocket and peed out his business card, handing it to the one who had spoken. The employee read it, his face paling as he realized who stood before him. You're the CEO," he stammered. Nathan nodded, crossing his arms. "That's right. And I was in line tonight, listening to every word you said about the customers who walked through that door. The man with the limp, the woman in the hoodie, even me. You didn't hold back, did you?" The second employee opened his mouth to speak, but Nathan cut him off. This isn't the time for excuses. What I heard tonight goes against everything this company stands for. I built this business to create a welcoming space for everyone, regardless of their circumstances, appearance, or background." The room fell silent, the employees shifting uncomfortably under Nathan's gaze. "You've turned this place into something ugly," Nathan continued, his voice rising slightly. "You mocked people who came here for a meal, people who trusted us to treat them with respect. Do you understand how serious this is?" One of the employees finally mustered the courage to speak. "We didn't mean anything by it. We were just joking." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Joking? Do you think the man you laughed at would find it funny? Or the woman who probably worked hard to scrape together enough money for her meal? Humor that comes at someone else's expense isn't humor, it's cruelty." But instead of letting his anger take over, Nathan paused, his next words carrying a tone of finality. "Here is what's going to happen." Nathan's voice steadied, but his resolve was unshaken. "Here's what's going to happen." He began, locking eyes with each employee. "This isn't just about the two of you, it's about the environment that allowed this to happen in the first place. You're going on suspension, effective immediately while we investigate. I'll be speaking to the store manager and the rest of the team to get to the bottom of this." The employees exchanged nervous glances, their previous arrogance now replaced with visible discomfort. Nathan could see they were grappling with the weight of the situation, but this was bigger than them. Over the next few days, Nathan dove deep into the store's culture, speaking with other employees and even some regular customers. What he uncovered was sobering: an unchecked cycle of toxic behavior. The two employees weren't the only ones guilty of mocking customers or treating people poorly. Several others admitted to staying silent out of fear or complacency. Nathan also learned the store manager had turned a blind eye to the behavior, prioritizing efficiency over integrity. It wasn't just about efficiency, though. It was about discomfort with confrontation, the type that lets rot creep in. Unnoticed, one employee, a young woman named Tasha, provided a turning point. She had seen it all and had wanted to speak up but feared retaliation. "They'd laugh at me too," she admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "But I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't know if anyone would care enough to do something." Nathan sat with her words for a long time that evening. They echoed in his head as he reflected on the responsibility he carried, not just as a leader, but as someone who had the power to change lives. The next day, Nathan gathered the staff for a meeting. He explained the changes coming to the store and the company as a whole. Policies would be restructured, training revamped, and accountability implemented at every level. But most importantly, Nathan made one thing crystal clear. This isn't just about avoiding punishment. It's about understanding the power of respect, the impact of your words, and how you make others feel. But Nathan knew that change wouldn't come from words alone. It had to be earned through action, one step at a time. In the weeks that followed, the restaurant began to transform. Nathan's changes weren't just surface level. They were designed to rebuild the culture from the ground up. The two employees who had mocked customers were offered the opportunity to participate in a training program focused on empathy and workplace respect. One accepted, humbled by the experience, while the other quit, unwilling to adapt to the new standards. The store manager was replaced with Tasha, the young woman who had finally found the courage to speak up. Nathan had seen potential in her, a quiet strength that could steer the team in a better direction. "You deserve this," he told her during the announcement. "You've shown more integrity and silence than others have, with a voice to ensure accountability." Nathan implemented anonymous feedback systems across all his locations, empowering employees to report misconduct without fear of retaliation. Training sessions on inclusivity and respect became mandatory, and a new company-wide motto emerged: "We serve with dignity for every person, every time." But it wasn't just about internal changes. Nathan went a step further, using the incident as a catalyst to advocate for broader conversations about respect and inclusion. He partnered with local organizations to host community events, inviting people from all walks of life to share their experiences and build understanding. Reflecting on the journey, Nathan O.D. This wasn't just about his company. It was about the values we carry as individuals and the ripple effect those values have on the world. "Words can heal or harm," he said during one of the community events. "It's up to us to choose which path we walk." And in that moment, Nathan realized that his toughest challenge had become his greatest opportunity to lead by example and create a legacy of respect that extended far beyond the walls of his restaurants. Nathan's journey didn't end with the changes he implemented. It was just the beginning. The story of what happened at his restaurant became a powerful lesson, one that resonated far beyond the company itself. It was a reminder that leadership isn't just about numbers or growth. It's about standing firm in your values, even when it's uncomfortable to those who watched from the sidelines. Nathan's actions spoke volumes. Respect isn't optional, and everyone deserves to feel valued, no matter who they are or where they come from. His story challenged others to reflect on their own behavior at work, at home, and in their communities. If there's one takeaway, it's this: small actions, whether kind or cruel, can leave a lasting impact. So the next time you encounter someone different from you, choose kindness. You never know whose day you might brighten or whose life you might change. And if this story moved, you take a moment to share it with others. Let's spread the message that respect and dignity are not just values, they're a way of life. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire, and challenge us to be better, one step at a time.